Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating and, yeah, sometimes pretty controversial philosophy of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It's essentially this grand, sweeping story of humanity's original innocence, our tragic fall into inequality, and then a brilliant blueprint for our ultimate political redemption. Let's get right into it.
To make sense of this massive shift in human history, we've got a roadmap. We'll be looking at first, the state of nature. Second, the origin of social evil. Third, emotion as a moral compass. Fourth, the general will. And finally, the social contract. By the end of this, you're going to see humanity, society, and the true meaning of freedom in a completely new light.
Section 1. The state of nature, humanity's innocence. Let's set the baseline for Rousseau's philosophy. It actually completely flips the script on how we typically view early humans.
Okay, let's dive into this. For a long time, the classic view of the state of nature told us that early humans were basically brutish cavemen, inherently selfish, violent, just swinging clubs. But Rousseau, he completely rejects that pessimistic view. He argues that it's actually consciousness and freedom that define a man. In our most natural state, human beings aren't monsters at all. In fact, to make a man happy, you literally just need to provide him with his basic needs. We start off essentially very peaceful.
So how do we actually relate to each other back then? Well, Rousseau says the only original social sentiment belonging to early humans is pity. Pity is just this natural, innate feeling. It's our capacity to identify with anyone who suffers. And what it does is absolutely crucial. It moderates our basic love of oneself. By naturally feeling for the suffering of others, pity actually contributes to the mutual preservation of the whole species. It keeps our raw survivalist instincts in check.
Now, you might be wondering, why didn't we just stay in this peaceful, pity-driven state forever? Well, think about the difference between us and animals. Animals are stuck in a static existence, right? They basically ignore history. But humans, we're intelligent. We create dynamism. We have what Rousseau calls perfectibility. This is our totally unique opportunity to grow, to develop, and to actually create history. We don't just loop through the same existence. We push forward.
Which brings us to Section 2, the origin of social evil, the catalyst. So here's the massive question. If we're defined by freedom, pity, and the intelligence to grow, how on earth did a creature so inherently innocent end up creating a world filled with social evil?
Think about the sheer, massive weight of a single historical action. Rousseau writes, the first who thought of saying, "This is mine," was the real founder of civil society. Just let that sit for a second. The simple invention of property rights over objects literally marked the end of the state of nature. Man has this amazing creativity to evolve toward the good. But right here, that exact same creativity is flipped and becomes the foundation for social trouble.
It's a tragic progression, and it starts so simply. The claim of property becomes the bedrock of civil society. Once you have property, society organizes, a culture develops, and progressing down that path leads directly to political inequality. This inequality is defined by privileges enjoyed by the rich and powerful entirely to the detriment of everyone else. It's wild to think that one simple claim of "this is mine" ripples out into systemic privilege.
To really understand how this changes us on the inside, we have to contrast two different kinds of self-love. Love of oneself is a basic natural feeling. Any animal has it to ensure its own preservation. It's healthy, it keeps us alive. But self-esteem, that is a totally artificial concept. It's born strictly into organized society. Suddenly, because of property and culture, we're not just surviving anymore. We're comparing ourselves, we're measuring our worth against our neighbors, and that comparison fuels and sustains all that political inequality.
Moving to Section 3, Emotion as a Moral Compass, the Internal Guide. Before we look at how Rousseau actually plans to legally fix this broken society, we need to understand how he thinks we internally navigate right and wrong.
For Rousseau, our moral compass isn't built on cold, calculating rationalism. Not at all. He sees morality as an innate principle, this internal consciousness bearing moral evaluations. It's a feeling that is completely spiritual, intuitive, and immediate. It's a God-given love for a good conscience. He concludes that our emotions play the absolute key role here, relying on this deep internal feeling way more than strict empiricism or logic. We just inherently feel what is right.
All right, Section 4, the general will, the path to redemption. Now we shift to the solution. How do we actually overcome this deeply entrenched political inequality we've built?
The answer is Rousseau's most crucial political idea. Enter the general will. Political society, in Rousseau's eyes, requires the total voluntary subjection of every single individual to the collective will of the social body. We unite for a common interest. This collective general will becomes the sole source of legitimate sovereignty. And because it truly is the unified will of everyone, it literally cannot be directed anywhere except toward the common good.
So, the crucial point is this. In Rousseau's political ideal, the people are the ultimate authority. Sovereignty lies entirely with the populace. The law exists for the people. The people do not exist for the law. And if a law ever contradicts this general will, it has to be abolished. True power always remains with the people. But here is a massive caveat, and this sets Rousseau drastically apart from most modern politics. The general will cannot be delegated or transmitted, period. Rousseau completely throws out the representative system. That means you cannot just elect a politician to go exercise the general will on your behalf. The law of the city must emanate directly from you, the general will. No stand-ins, no proxies. Which leads us to our final part. Section 5, the social contract, freedom through law. Let's set up the final piece of the puzzle. How is this general will practically applied to fix our broken civil society?
Rousseau poses a problem in these incredibly clear, almost impossible-sounding terms. Think about this. How can a man recognize himself, obey the law, and at the very same time be totally free? I mean, usually, obeying a law means giving up a chunk of your personal freedom to the state, right? So how do we somehow have both?
The grand solution is the social contract. This isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It is the vital pact that establishes legitimate rule of law. With this contract, political freedom is actually actualized. It transforms the law from being this tool of oppression and inequality into an instrument, the very organ of our true freedom. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how participating in true democracy works. First, men abide by laws that emanate directly from them. Because it's their own general will, they are essentially just obeying themselves. Second, because they made the laws, they become accountable to them for freedom and justice. And third, by living under this universal law, they escape arbitrary inclinations and the random whims of powerful elites. You're free precisely because you are governed by laws you had a direct hand in making. So this means the concept of supreme authority, the sovereign, is tightly bound to the general will. The sovereign absolutely must not act according to personal pleasure or ambition. They must act strictly according to the wishes of the general will, recognizing all members of society. With a genuine social contract in place, Rousseau guarantees that the good and the right will eventually have the last word.
We've journeyed from humanity's raw innocence through the tragic invention of property, all the way to this brilliant blueprint for true democratic freedom. But I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought. If the very foundation of civil society, just simply claiming "this is mine," inherently brought us organized culture and political inequality, is a true, undelegated social contract even possible in our modern world? Can we ever truly implement the general will today without representatives? It's something to seriously chew on as you look at the political structures all around us. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning.